4,500 years ago, 1 million people lived in cities with better sewage systems than most of the world has today. No king, no standing army, no royal tombs stacked with gold, and a written language that has beaten every code breaker on Earth for over 100 years. This is the Indus Valley Civilization, and by the time this video ends, you'll know why it might be the most advanced society history forgot. How a civilization twice the size of ancient Egypt built flush toilets before the Romans even had a republic, ran a trade network stretching to Mesopotamia, and then vanished so completely that we're still not 100% sure what language its people spoke. No pharaohs. No monuments to ego. Just proof that a society can be brilliant and almost invisible in the history books. Let's fix that. Picture a civilization the size of Texas. Now double it. That's roughly the footprint of the Indus Valley Civilization at its peak, sprawling across what's now Pakistan and northwest India, an area larger than both ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. Around 1 million people lived inside this zone. Hundreds of settlements, multiple full-scale cities. And this was happening at the exact same moment the pyramids of Giza were going up. You've heard of Egypt, you've heard of Mesopotamia. So why has almost nobody heard of this one? Stick around, the answer is stranger than you'd expect. Here's where it gets almost unbelievable. Walk through Mohenjo-daro or Harappa, and you're not looking at a maze of huts. You're looking at a grid. Streets running precisely north-south and east-west, cutting the city into clean rectangular blocks. The same logic Manhattan uses today, 4,500 years later. And this wasn't a one-city fluke. Cities separated by hundreds of miles followed the exact same layout, which means somebody, somewhere, was enforcing the standard. A civilization-wide building code in the Bronze Age. Now here's the part that should genuinely shock you. Underneath those streets ran covered drains, built from baked brick, carrying wastewater away from homes. Individual houses had their own private bathrooms connected directly into that city-wide sewage network. Private bathrooms, indoor plumbing. In individual homes, while Bronze Age Britain was still living in timber roundhouses. Rome wouldn't build sewage infrastructure at this scale for another 2,000 years. And at Mohenjo-daro sits the Great Bath, a massive, waterproof public tank, precision-built with layers of brick and natural tar sealant, so it wouldn't leak. Nobody knows exactly what it was for. Ritual bathing, public gathering? We genuinely don't know. But we know they cared enough to engineer it perfectly. Grid cities, standardized bricks, private toilets, sewage systems. This is basic modern urban planning, built while Stonehenge was still under construction. Now here's the twist that breaks every assumption you have about ancient empires. Go to Egypt, and you find pyramids screaming one man's power for eternity. Go to Mesopotamia, and you find towering ziggurats built for gods and kings. Go to the Indus Valley, and you find neither. No grand palaces. No royal tombs loaded with treasure. No temples dedicated to a single ruling god. No obvious throne rooms. No monumental statues of a pharaoh-like figure demanding to be remembered. Even more strange, almost no evidence of warfare. No mass weapon stockpiles. No city walls clearly built for military defense. No burned layers suggesting conquest. A civilization of 1 million people, spread across an area the size of Western Europe, apparently running without visible kings, without standing armies, and without wars leaving a mark in the dirt. So who was in charge? How do you coordinate a grid city building code across hundreds of miles without a centralized ruler barking orders? Historians are still arguing about this. Some think power was shared among merchant elites or councils rather than a single monarch. Others think we simply haven't found the palace yet. Either way, it's one of the biggest open questions in archaeology. 3:45 to 5 o'clock, merchants of the Bronze Age Internet. If there's one thing the Indus Valley people were obsessed with, it was trade, and they were terrifyingly organized about it. Excavators have found small carved stone seals, thousands of them stamped with animals and symbols, almost certainly used to mark ownership of goods, like an ancient shipping label. They also used standardized weights, cut with remarkable mathematical precision. So a merchant in one city and a merchant 300 miles away were measuring goods on the exact same scale. That's not a small thing. That's the Bronze Age equivalent of agreeing on a universal currency. And their trade network reached far. Indus seals have turned up in Mesopotamian cities. Mesopotamian texts even mention a trading partner called Meluha, a name many historians believe refers to the Indus Valley itself, a distant land supplying timber, beads, ivory, and precious stones. At the city of Lothal, archaeologists uncovered what may be one of the world's earliest dockyards, a basin built to handle boat traffic connected to trade routes by sea. This wasn't an isolated valley civilization. This was a connected, cosmopolitan trading power, quietly running Bronze Age global commerce. And now, the mystery that keeps historians up at night. The Indus Valley people wrote, "We know that because we have thousands of short inscriptions, mostly on seals, made up of hundreds of distinct symbols, some looking like diamonds, some like combs, some like human figures. But here's the problem, nobody can read a single word of it. Egyptian hieroglyphs got cracked because of the Rosetta Stone. One message, written in 3 known languages side by side. The Indus script has no equivalent. No bilingual inscription has ever been found. 0. Worse, we don't even know what language it's encoding. Was it an early form of a Dravidian language, related to Tamil and other South Indian tongues today? Was it Indo-European? Some researchers have even suggested it isn't a full language at all, but a system of symbols for trade and religion, more like an accounting code than a storytelling script. For over 100 years, codebreakers, linguists, and now even artificial intelligence models have tried to crack it. All of them have failed. Every other major ancient civilization eventually told us its own story in its own words. The Indus Valley Civilization is the one major exception. A civilization that speaks to us only through bricks, drains, and silence. So a civilization this organized, this widespread, this sophisticated, what happened to it? Here's the honest answer. There wasn't one dramatic collapse. No invading army burning the cities down in a single, cinematic battle. The truth is slower, and in some ways scarier. Starting around 1900 BCE, the monsoon patterns across the region began shifting. Rainfall that Indus farmers depended on started drying up. Rivers the civilization was built around, including a mighty river system many researchers linked to the now vanished Ghaggar-Hakra, believed by some to be the ancient Saraswati, began shrinking or changing course entirely. Add centuries of deforestation for brick-making fuel. Add tectonic activity known to hit this region, and you get a slow-motion unraveling, agriculture failing, cities losing population, that incredible urban grid planning quietly abandoned, and people migrating in smaller groups toward the east and south. Not a fall, a fade. By around 1300 BCE, the great cities were largely empty, but the people didn't vanish. This is where the story gets personal. In 2019, scientists extracted and analyzed ancient DNA from a skeleton excavated at Rakhigarhi, one of the largest Indus Valley sites. What they found reshaped the whole conversation. This individual's genetic lineage didn't closely match steppe populations from Central Asia and didn't closely match ancient Iranian farmers either. It represented a distinct ancestral population. And that population turned out to be a major genetic contributor to South Asians. Living today, hundreds of millions of people across modern India and Pakistan carry a thread of ancestry running straight back to these Bronze Age city builders. They didn't disappear. Their cities emptied. Their descendants didn't. Here's the uncomfortable answer. We tell history through stories, and stories need voices. Kings who left inscriptions bragging about their conquests. Priests who wrote down their gods. Scribes who recorded a pharaoh's name for eternity. The Indus Valley Civilization left us no names, no royal propaganda, no readable myths. Just a script we can't open, and cities engineered with a kind of quiet, collective discipline that doesn't photograph as dramatically as a 200-foot pyramid. It's not that they achieved less. In sanitation, city planning, and standardization, they may have achieved more than their famous neighbors. They just didn't leave behind a story we know how to tell, yet. Somewhere in those hundreds of untranslated symbols could be a name, a law, a poem, a joke, a voice from a civilization that quietly out-engineered its more famous neighbors and never once bragged about it. Maybe you're the one who cracks it. If this blew your mind, hit subscribe because next time we're heading to Mesopotamia, the first civilization that the Indus Valley may have been trading with the entire time.